And at first I was saying, boy, that seems really harsh. If I'm not speaking with purpose and intent, be quiet. But if you think about it, every statement you make aligns energy, inward and outward.
So no word goes void.
That's right. No word goes void. So when you say something negative, oh man, that man just pissed me off. I wish he would run into a tree. Somewhere that thought is going to manifest. It may not necessarily be with him. Maybe with you. Maybe with somebody you love. But you have put it out there. You have put the energy forward. Which means you also put forth the energy of imbalance. So you see, coming into unconditional love holds us accountable in a very high way. It becomes more and more difficult to speak one way and be another. Because it eats you up inside. You cannot resolve it. If your goal is towards unconditional love, that creates conflict. And it increases the more you're trying to do it. Not only that, in this energy of this age, thought and manifestation are so close. Thought and manifestation are so close. So if you're putting out one thing in your language and you're living another way, you will feel the impact of that in your personal life very quickly. So if your question is, why aren't things going right for me? Stop and look at the inconsistencies in your life. But also understand that sometimes when we ask that, is we expect everything to go wonderfully, and we don't understand. Sometimes the hard roads are teaching us greater lessons, you know? So anyway, unconditional love of self. What else is this all about? Okay, so we're all working to try to be our higher selves, to come into unconditional love of ourselves, which means sometimes we have to go and touch stuff that's really yucky so that we can let it go and realize we're not our stories, you know, so that we can move forward. Coming into unconditional love of yourself, and this is a question that I ask the grandmothers over and over again. There's got to be more to it. There's got to be more to it. I mean, not that that's not enough, but there's got to be more to it. And I guess maybe that comes from my own background, which is, you know, having to see the evidence, you know. So what I was told is that when we work to become an unconditional love of ourselves, literally what happens is our vibration changes. Remember I talked about that pulsation of the word, earth, a heartbeat. The universe has its own pulsations. They're all in sync. We literally increase our vibration. Now, where this has a tremendous impact is in the language of the grandmothers. They often reference time in a way that's inconsistent to us. In other words, the language of the book, the information is channeled and continues to be channeled, is that past, present, and future are all treated as one. So in one reading, they may be talking about something using a present tense, and then all of a sudden there's sort of like a before and after kind of thing, but it's all written in the same context of the story. So sometimes it's difficult to follow that way. That's because they talk of a time when time ceases to start again. Right? Time ceases and then starts again. And we'll go back to that. Now, as they gave me an understanding of what unconditional love of self meant, then I was able to understand that statement. When you come into unconditional love of yourself, which is the calling right now, you increase your individual vibration. Anybody know the speed of light? There you go, Gladys. Miles per second. Everybody else got Gladys. Yeah. 186,000 miles per second. When you're traveling at the speed of light, everything appears to stand still, or everything appears to be in the present moment. In other words, there's no reference for past, present, or future. Time is. And so the grandmothers say that as we increase our ability to love ourselves unconditionally, we open the channels of energy in our body, or the receptors in our body, we remove blockages. And what that means is that there are 12 centers in our body that the grandmothers speak of as being key to us being able to go to a higher dimensional way of being. As we open up those 12 centers, they can only be opened up by coming into unconditional love of ourselves. We clear the blockages. Now, those blockages are responsible for all kinds of things in our lives. Things not working the way we want to, problems with relationships, problems with money, and disease, cancer, all of that has to do with blockages in our bodies that prevent energy from flowing the way it should, the way it can. But it requires a lot of work. So as we do that, then all of a sudden you've got this body that is like a conduit. Anybody seen these conduits now when they build the buildings now, especially industrial buildings? Underneath, they just build conduits. Anybody know what a conduit is? It's a big old tube with nothing in it. And why do they build it? So they can put those wires and fibers in there as technology changes. Because they found to fix a building with a certain kind of technology when things are changing so fast, it doesn't work anymore. So imagine yourself all of a sudden being this open tube that allows energy to come in and out of like this all the time. And vibrating at the speed of light, where you're now able to tap into history, information, knowledge that is as ancient or more ancient than the textbooks we have, and more forward thinking than what we can imagine and write about. In that space, when I talked about the scientists from NASA who asked me about what's happening with the sun in terms of what the grandmothers are saying, and my response to him being, you know it's more than the sun, and his response to me being, I know, but the only thing we can deal with right now is the sun, because it's the only thing we're able to explain in our language. How would I know that? I don't have a science degree. I don't have a math degree. I haven't studied this information. People ask me all the time, do you read? Every now and then I might read a book, but I can't read because I'm blocked from reading a lot of things. All right? So how do I know that? Does that make me different than any of you? No. That's where we all are. In this space, as we move more towards this energy, we're like this complete library. You know, in Africa there's a saying that every time an elder dies, a library closes. In this energy, in the flow of this energy, we are that library. We have access to so much information. Often we don't have to read it even to know it exists. Now, I'm not discouraging reading. I think reading is important. But I think one of the things in our culture is that we focus so often on the tangible stuff, like a book or whatever, and we don't focus at all on what we are capable of on an energetic, psychic level. Right? So when I'm saying, I don't want anybody to misunderstand me, I'm not saying throw your books away. Then read whatever you think you need to read. It's fun. And you'll learn something. And I'm also saying spend as much time with yourself, tapping into that knowledge base that exists within you. It's awesome at this time. This energy is coming in now so strong, and it is hitting people. It is exciting. It is so exciting. You have the capacity to literally change the world. Everybody sitting in here, individually. Imagine what we are capable of collectively. But we must go through this process to tap into that. Let's take a few minutes if anybody gets really tired. Take a few minutes, stretch, hold that thought. Take about 2 minutes. Okay? So don't go anywhere. Just sort of stay here a minute. Just digest.
find out what's going on. Well, we got to stop telling them. Yeah, that NASA point, you said the NASA scientists came to do about what happened with the sun. There's a tape by Diane Mark. The scientist is called Science of Mind. In there, he gives a critique of European culture. Number second critique was quantification is the only accepted measure of reality. You can't count it.
Physical-based reality.
So I just came and said, let's go over here. Well, now, we come here to learn. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. But we all here. Yeah, we're here to remember. Okay? So, we don't what you will be. So, understand what I'm talking about. We hit that nail on the head. Every time we say something, hit that nail on the head.
That was a very good point. Did you all hear what Emiola was saying? Share that, Emiola, because I want to use that to go into the next.
Yes, there was Dr. Naiman Park did a lecture at the Now Valley Conference in 1983, where he gave a critique of European culture. Number 2 point was quantification is the only accepted measure of reality.
Right.
You can't count it. It ain't real.
That's
you can't
right.
measure it, weigh it, put it on the scale, you know. It ain't real to them.
Exactly.
So they, and guess what? They came with this God concept. It ain't real to them either because they can't touch it. Okay? They can't. So they lying when they're talking about all the Christians. Yeah, they are. Okay? But you understand what type of Christian they're talking about. Where might makes right. Okay? But if I come and take it, and God don't do nothing, then I'm right. That's the way it goes. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Are there any questions before I move forward? Any questions? No? We got it? Okay.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
When you talk about, you said something that things that you don't say it, the same impact.
Oh, it certainly is. Yeah, Me too. About a year ago, was it 2 years now? 98. Wherever that puts us, December 98. I spent 21 days up on a mountain in isolation. What I learned more than anything is how thought manifests. And the greatest teaching that came out of that 21 days is not only be careful what you speak, be careful what you think. And I guess there are 2 examples I'll give you. After about 7 days on the mountain, I was kind of doing a semi-fast. In other words, at night I would boil maybe a yam or a carrot or something like that, and I would eat that in the evening. During the day I drank water and lemon and honey to keep my energy going. And around the 7th day, I was sitting outside the teepee. The weather was just magnificent. And I asked, I said, I would love to have an apple. You know, some fruit would be so good. You just want a different taste sometimes in your salad. Well, that weekend, on the weekends, people would come up, chop wood,